I don't think this will shock anyone, but I really love retro games. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Peg. So glad you're here. Click that subscribe button if you're new here. Today we're talking not about retro games, which is kind of a weird way to start the video with me telling you how much I love retro games. But you know what I like more than retro games? Convenience. And one of the things that I love about convenience, especially in today's modern video game landscape, is that I am able to take so many amazing games with me on the go. Whether it's my Nintendo Switch, a Steam Deck, playing on my PlayStation Portal or Xbox Play Anywhere, the options to play games are never ending. But like I mentioned, I love retro games. And one of the things I love about gaming right now is how many amazing retro style games there are on modern platforms. I want to give you some of my favorites today, and we're going to kick things off with one of the absolute best on the Nintendo Switch, Berserk Boy. When I first saw Berserk Boy, I was immediately taken by the design of the game because it, to me, screamed a Mega Man clone. This felt like something straight out of the Mega Man universe and was just that perfect kind of blend of classic gameplay and modern sensibilities to make something amazing. And then when I got in game, it was a little bit beyond Mega Man because it wasn't just Mega Man, oh no, it was Mega Man X. This feels like the evolution of the Mega Man X series, and I cannot tell you how excellent it is. This is one of my favorite games of 2024. I think it is absolutely brilliant. I think the look of the game is spectacular. The actual story isn't bad either, which is a really nice change of pace for platformers because sometimes they're really dumb. But this is just such one of those like signature touchstone games for me from last year that I can't help but talk about it again here. It's available in a lot of places, and even cooler right now, there's actually an idle game that they just put out that also has some active like combat elements that you can use that plays like a Mega Man Battle Network game. So they're like leaning heavily into the Mega Man inspiration, and I am here for it. This game is wonderful. Play Berserk Boy if you haven't done so. When it comes to beat 'em ups, I think there's kind of two design elements that really stand out. You either get kind of the frantic, over-the-top game like a Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the video game, or you get something that's a little more methodical and a little bit more paced, kind of like a classic Final Fight. Final Vendetta falls into that second category. This is an incredible throwback to the Final Fight series that feels like it's a continuation of that franchise. You have different characters you're able to choose from. Each one plays differently. The look of the game is fantastic. It stepped right out of the late 80s and early 90s. The soundtrack is amazing. The combat is wonderful. And it just feels like it's right at home with a game like Final Fight or Streets of Rage that isn't so kind of frantic and over the top like other beat 'em ups, but something where you kind of need to plot how you're going to go through, consider when you're going to pick up power-ups, and figure out how you're going to break the pattern of fighting the final boss in the particular level. It's incredible. This game is wonderful. I have played it on the eShop. There's also a physical version on the Switch, which is absolutely worth getting. The game is wonderful, brilliant, and really, really fun. I remember when I first saw footage of The Messenger, I was interested because I like the Ninja Gaiden games, but I wasn't really sold on what I was seeing because it was just another ninja platformer. But when I finally picked it up on a deep discount sale on Steam and I got into game, I was absolutely blown away by how crisp the controls were, how perfectly executed the gameplay was, how brilliantly designed the levels were, and then I got to the sense of humor, because the sense of humor in the game is very deep. Like, this game does not take itself seriously as far as writing goes, because it needs to bring some levity to the situation with the unbelievably hardcore gameplay that's going on here. Like, this is an NES hard video game. It blends beautifully both 18-bit and 16-bit presentations. There's amazing power-ups. There's, like I said, hilarious storylines going on throughout, wonderful music, and just a perfect modernization of the Ninja Gaiden series in a 2D platformer format. Like, some of the 3D Ninja Gaiden games are great, but this is the one we want. The resurgence in single-screen arcade games over the last few years has not been something that I have ignored. In fact, it's something that I have absolutely loved. Games like Donut Dodo, which you're seeing right here, is absolutely fantastic. But then there's also games like John Riggs' Yeah Yeah Beavis 2, which is decidedly a single-screen arcade game. These are wonderful pick-up-and-play, hop-in moments that are just really, really fun. And one of the best developers for that are the guys behind Donut Dodo, Flynn's Arcade. They put out these incredible games, stuff like this, stuff like Farmer Freddy, that are just awesome. They're wonderful to sit down and play for hours. They're great to pick up and play for 5 minutes just to try to top a high score. And it's a wonderful experience. Like, this is one of those games that I look at as kind of one of those landmark games from this generation that feels out of place based on its design, but when you actually get into the gameplay, it's incredibly addictive. It's incredibly well designed. It's a nearly bug-free title that is just solidly constructed from top to bottom, and it's purely fun. And when you look at a single-screen arcade game, that's what you need, is a good time, and you get that in spades with Donut Dodo. Everyone who has watched this channel for more than a minute knows that I love sports titles. I always have, I always will. Sports games and RPGs are like my two favorite genres, and I love classic sports games. One of my favorite video games ever is the original ice hockey on the NES. Super Blood Hockey is the deranged older brother, I guess younger brother, because, you know, ice hockey released back in the 80s, this released in the 2020s, but regardless, you know what I'm saying. This is the deranged sibling of ice hockey, because not only is this game hyper violent, like, you can legitimately kill players on the ice. And if you have the premium edition games release of Super Blood Hockey, that's an achievement where you can earn a patch for doing so. Yup, it's amazing. It also has some of the best gameplay for hockey since that original ice hockey. Like, don't think this is going to play like an NHL game. This isn't a sim by any stretch. It is hardcore arcade action for hockey, and it is amazing. I love this game. It is exactly what I wanted it to be. It's a loving throwback, a classic love letter to classic sports games, and just perfectly executed. I truly don't think you can go wrong with any game featuring Shovel Knight, because the character is magnificent. This is a signature mascot that would have been like welcomed and present and just beloved back in the 80s and 90s, but we were lucky enough to get him in the mid-2010s, and he still persists to this day. This is from Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which is the complete collection of Shovel Knight experiences, and it is a magnificent platformer. It is probably my favorite platformer of the last 10 years. I think the character is wonderful. The gameplay mechanics are magnificent. It is just a love letter, and a brilliant love letter to classic platformers, and it just works across the board. Like, there isn't anything in this game that misses. The level designs are wonderful. The power-ups are fun. The humor is ever present and fantastic. The music is magnificent. It is just the total package. And for Yacht Club to not only like deliver this incredible Kickstarter back in the mid-2010s, but to just keep delivering on every promise and to fulfill every single stretch goal that they promised in that campaign is kind of remarkable. Every spin-off from Shovel Knight has been wonderful to different degrees and to different levels. They're all very different titles, but for me, for my money, the original Shovel Knight, or the treasure trove that collects everything that was involved with that original game, is the way to go. It's a perfect title. I'm a big fan of racing games. I worked on racing games and I worked in the video game industry, and I love arcade racers like Outrun or like Cruisin' USA, and the Horizon Chase series is the spiritual descendant of those type of games. This is Horizon Chase 2, and this to me is kind of a perfected version of the original one that released a few years back. This just plays brilliantly well. It's fast, it's fluid, it's fun, the backgrounds are great, the scenery is great, the music is wonderful, the gameplay is solid while still having that fun, over-the-top arcade action. It is a wonderful title that, to me, is kind of the epitome of what arcade racing is in the 2020s. It's a throwback and a love letter to games like Outrun, like I mentioned, but it decidedly stands on its own feet by setting its own mark and being its own game. It's magnificent. Demons of Astaborg feels like kind of the perfect blend between 16-bit Castlevania and Astyanax, or maybe more appropriately the arcade version of Astyanax, which is a little bit different than what we got on the NES, but this is such an incredible kind of hack and slash platformer that is really, really interesting and really well put together. It's an incredibly designed game that I think is one of those kind of perfect examples of what you can do with a great idea and a whole lot of style behind it. Because not only do you get this solidly designed title that feels like it stepped right off of the Sega Genesis, There's also so much attention to detail put into things like the different screen filters and things like that that are applied to the game that make it feel old, make it feel discovered, make it feel like something that we all missed back in the 90s, but we found it here today in the 2020s. It's a brilliant title that I cannot get enough of, and is something that I think is absolutely wonderful to play. Stardew Valley gets in on this list for two reasons. One, this is the ultimate evolution of games like the classic Harvest Moon or Wonderful Life series. It is a farming simulator where you have to develop relationships in this magical little town, and you have to farm the land that was provided to you. You have to till the soil. You have to clear out the crops. You have to get rid of the rocks and the stumps and things like that, which is familiar to anyone that has played a farming sim in the past. But there's more to the game than that. Like, there's a lot of relationship management. There's like an underworld level with combat, which is really cool. But for me, the reason this one gets on the list is not only because it's absolutely brilliant and one of the best video games like literally ever made. This is a retro throwback, a modern retro game to me, because this was made by one dude, and it's perfect. It's a magnificent title, and it is something that, for me, who hasn't really loved chore simulators, like that's kind of what games like this and Animal Crossing fall into my head as, is they are chore simulators. But for this to really capture my imagination the way it did, shows the quality that this game has. The writing is wonderful, the plot is funny, the gameplay is perfect. It is just a wonderful title from top to bottom. When it comes to classic beat-em-ups that are not decidedly methodical, unlike games like Final Vendetta and Final Fight, the first one I think of is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, or the Hyperstone Heist from the 16-bit generation. And when we got announced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge as a classic throwback to those fantastic beat-em-ups of days of yore, yeah, we're going to call it days of yore. Why not? I'm in my mid-40s. I'm allowed. I was so excited to get my hands on this game. Like, first and foremost, love the Turtles. Always have loved the Turtles. Always will love the Turtles. I am a sucker for Ninja Turtles video games. I was in on this game no matter what. Even if it sucked, I was going to give it a shot. I was going to pick it up. This is one of my favorite beat-em-ups ever made. Like, not only does this just lean heavily into the license of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and uses it brilliantly well, it also leans directly into the strengths of the development teams between .mu and Tribute by making something that is incredibly fluid, incredibly fun, and just perfectly designed. I can't find a flaw with this game. Like, everything that has gone into this game is nearly perfect. Like, even the DLC has been excellent. It has added characters that we like. It has added free components to the game to give more gameplay options to people that have purchased it. There's a brilliant physical release. There's a classic just digital release if that's what you want as well. If you just want the core game, you can do that. You're not going to be disappointed with Shredder's Revenge. Amazing retro style modern games that I think are just like the cream of the crop, some of the best that you can play on modern consoles. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list. Certainly games like Stardew Valley were obvious to include on this list, but there's some other games that I'm going to cover in future iterations of this video down the road. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to check out the link on screen right now, where I look at spiritual successors of classic games on the Nintendo Switch. And hey, if you enjoyed this one, click subscribe. I'd love to have you stick around and do a couple videos a week. Till next time, folks, I've been Jay. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. Remember to play more games, stay square, and play retro. I'll talk to you soon.